Appearing with Fetchit and Judge Priest was another immensely talented black performer who was initially told by a powerful casting agent she would never reach stardom. Hattie McDaniels.
Hey! Cut them monkey shine!
Before 1930, there was no casting situation. Central Casting didn't handle them, so they created one. They hired a guy named Mr. Butler. They call him Mr. Butler. So if you wanted a job, you wanted a job in this town, you had to go through Mr. Butler. Well, naturally, he stuck it to people. And when Hattie went to him, he said, "You're too black and ugly. You're never going to make anything in film," that kind of thing. But she proved him wrong.
Hattie McDaniel, like Stephen Fetchit, came to Hollywood in the late 1920s. Born in Wichita, Kansas, the fourth child of a Baptist minister.
Got to take 'em in the house, yes, Lord.
She struggled upward from roles in road companies to appearances on radio and then finally parts in movies. She played the fussy, boisterous maid in film after film, using the stereotyped figure to display her remarkable talent and affinity for pure, broad comedy.
And Josie, I got stomach trouble. Lord help you, white child. What do you mean she's been feeding you? Not a darn thing, that's the trouble. What have we got for supper? Mr. Rome, you stay here. Us is going to kill the hot Stephanie's loose in the yard and a great big bowl of milk gravy and grits. And waffles? Don't you worry none, honey. You's home now. Miss Rome.
Heavy-set and dark-skinned, she had the physical characteristics that Hollywood associated with the role of domestics. Often criticized for playing the part of a maid, she answered her critics just as tartly as she might have answered an employer in one of her films. "Why should I complain about making $700 a week playing a maid? If I didn't, I'd be making $7 a week actually being one."
Hattie never really wanted to be a mammy as such, but she liked being Earth Mother. And there is a difference. That's not a put down or an embarrassment to other blacks.
She was able to transcend the stereotype and the cliche and to give that character the dimension that was inherent in the material.
In Joseph von Sternberg's 1932 film, Blonde Venus, McDaniel plays a domestic who befriends as well as protects Marlene Dietrich. Here she investigates a detective looking for Dietrich.
Howdy, boss.
Hello, Annie.
Looking for somebody?
No, nobody in particular. Why?
Well, I knows everybody in the street and thought maybe I might be able to help you out.
No, I wasn't looking for anybody. Just browsing around. Thanks, just the same. Just browsing around.
Yes, sir, boss. I can see that. Just browsing around.
What did he say, Cora?
He says he ain't looking for nobody. He's just browsing around. But he can't fool me, no, sir. That white man's up to something.
In 1937, McDaniel appeared in 7 films. Her most interesting role was as Rosetta in Saratoga. The film starred 2 of the biggest sex symbols of the 30s, Clark Gable and Jean Harlow. It included special scenes to play on McDaniel's rich humor and infectious charm. Most important in Saratoga, Hattie McDaniel's character emerged as a mother figure to Jean Harlow.
Will you tell Mr. Bradley I'd like to see him?
I sure will. You've got a pencil smudge on your chin, honey.
Well, what of it?
Don't you want to look pretty for Mr. Bradley?
Why should I?
I'd fix up for him anytime. If it's only the right color, I'd marry him.
Hattie had such a fine rapport with Clark Gable that audiences frequently lost sight of their master-servant roles.
Yeah, I know. That brat needs a good spanking.
Oh, she don't mean nothing, Mr. Duke. That's just her way.
Rosetta, I love you.
She emerged as the one servant of the era to speak her mind fully. This is especially true of the role she played in David O. Selznick's Gone with the Wind. Hattie is an all-seeing, all-knowing guardian of the Tara Mansion. In one of the film's most dramatic moments, she reveals her concern for Rhett Butler after the accidental death of his only child.
It's Mr. Rhett I was worried about. He done lost his mind these last couple of days.
Oh, no, Mammy, no.
I ain't never seen no man, black or white, sit at the store on any child. When Dr. Meade said her neck broke, Mr. Red grabbed his gun and run out there and shoot that poor pony. And for a minute, I think he wanted to shoot himself.
Oh, poor Captain Butler.
And yes, and Miss Scarlett, she called him a murderer for teaching that child to jump. She said, "You give me my baby what you killed." And then he said, "Miss Scarlett ain't never cared nothing about Miss Buckley." It's like to turn my blood cold, the things they say to one another.
Her powerful performance won Hattie McDaniel an Oscar for Best Supporting Actress. Thus, in 1940, she became the first black person to receive a nomination and the first to win an Academy Award. Ironically, her acceptance speech was written by the studio.
Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Science, fellow members of the motion picture industry, and honored guests. This is one of the happiest moments of my life. And I want to thank each one of you who had a part in selecting me for one of the awards. For your kindness, it has made me feel very, very humble. And I shall always hold it as a beacon for anything that I may be able to do in the future. I sincerely hope I shall always be a credit to my race and to the motion picture industry. My heart is too full to tell you just how I feel. And may I say thank you and God bless you.
Olivia de Havilland told me this story about when Hattie McDaniel's name was announced as being the winner. Olivia de Havilland got so upset. They were both in the same category for supporting actress. She was 23 at the time. And she ran into the kitchen of the hotel crying. And Mrs. Selznick followed her in and gave her a really rough talking to, saying that, how dare you be upset that this woman has won? It's probably the only time in her life she'll ever have a chance like this. She's reached the pinnacle of her career. She's worked for 40 years to do this sort of thing, and here you are crying your heart out because you've lost to this woman. You ought to be ashamed of yourself. So I think that was pretty, as Olivia de Havilland mentioned it to me, it was one of her early learning experiences, she called it.
In all her best movies, Hattie McDaniel refused to accept typical domesticity. Given the racial segregation of the period, just talking back was a triumph. Southern filmgoers complained that she acted too familiar with her white employers. In the 1940s, film producers softened the high-spirited McDaniel screen persona. Before her death in the early 1950s, she left the movies to play the wild and witty Maid Beulah on radio.